Somehow, we have transitioned from a Killer Santa slasher movie to a story about a coven of witches that vaguely takes place in the vicinity of Christmas. It's just one of those franchises, I guess. Join us for Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. Merry December and all that stuff. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Ooh, I've been naughty.
Did you make that joke last year? I feel like you might have done.
Probably.
I don't think that's the first time you've made that joke. Anyway, this is a horror movie podcast.
I'm gonna get a lump in my stocking this year.
There's a joke here about a lump in your pants that I don't want to say it.
I can't believe your mind would go there. Come on. It's a family show.
After you said I've been naughty in that voice, you're going to give me shit for my mind going there? Come on now. But yes, welcome everyone. Screws After Midnight, a horror movie podcast. It's obviously the Christmas season. We're doing a couple of Christmas episodes. We'll start spoiler free, of course.
No other religions.
But we'll get to spoilers in a bit. We'll warn you before we get there. Just before we get started, I'll say if you do enjoy the show, hit the like button. It always helps if you do. And at the end of the show, I'll tell you more about the bonus episodes and the bonus shows you can get over on Patreon if you want to support us over on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But we'll get into it. Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation. The fourth movie in the, and I'm going to use air quotes for this, franchise. We did 3 last year. I had never seen 3. I'd never seen 4. This was the first time watch for me. This is another Stars-produced movie. And Brian Yuzna, who did Society and Bride of Reanimator and Return of the Living Dead Part 3, directs this. Right. Clint Howard's in it, as is Reggie from Phantasm.
Horror royalty. And don't forget about the best friend from Rumpelstiltskin.
What, really?
Yeah.
Did you expect me to remember this character?
Of course, she's very memorable. Remember, like she was like that funny best friend who, like, all her jokes were about, like, I need a man kind of thing.
Wait, which one is that in this movie?
She was like the best friend at work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember, but I'm willing to believe you. I'm willing to. What do you want from me, Tim?
She's horror royalty. What do you?
That's not horror garbage, maybe.
That's not very nice. Santa's watching.
The pervert. I bet he is.
It's gonna give you some lumps.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Oh, well, this has went off the rails. But hey, this is a movie where Clint Howard gets naked. So, you know.
Finally.
So, you know, like, I guess that's the standard.
What do you think the call was like? He was like, hey, Clint, we got a part for you. Oh, is it the romantic lead? No, you're going to be playing a dirty, crazy hobo.
Again?
Yeah. It's like, talk about typecasting. Jeez.
His brother's off, you know, making movies, doing important jobs. Clint Howard's stuck with Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. So, to recap, first movie's actually kind of a B-movie classic. 2 as well, actually, for its, like, absurdly bad stuff in the back half. And then 3 was a weird movie. It was kind of interesting for what it was, but it certainly wasn't good. I don't think anyone would be, you know, saying that about it. But getting into 4, I didn't know what to expect. Because 3 was already stretching the slasher killer at Christmas genre that it had been up until that point. It was added in this like weird telepathy part that was a bit strange, a bit different. This one is about a coven of witches.
You said something interesting there. You said the word recap, and I feel like I only ever hear like, you know, recap. Like you never just hear cap, you know. Like what is, if recapping is, you know, kind of summarizing like the past, you know, what happened in the movie, like what is there a cap? Like do people just cap? Because you only ever hear people recapping. I don't know. That's what's going through my head.
Well, yeah, you cap something off.
Okay. So what does that mean? Like, you're just describing something as it happens?
No. Well, no, because capping's not describing something. Like, capping something off, just finishing the thing. Recapping is going back and describing what you did earlier.
Okay. It seems weird to me. If recapping is what you did earlier, then capping should just be what you're currently doing, and then there should be some type of,
okay,
pre-capping.
Okay, I searched recap definition to give you more, because you're clearly wanting more background in this. So it's short for recapitulate.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right. So I'm going to type in capitulate and see what it tells me. Okay.
All right, please do.
Because that's clearly what you want to know.
Stuff,
you want to know what capitulate.
You know, I have an inquisitive mind. God damn it.
This doesn't seem that related, because it says cease to resist an opponent or unwelcome demand / yield. That's what capitulating to enemy forces means.
Oh, it kind of sounds like our show.
So what? So capitulating and recapitulating doesn't actually seem like they're all that related in terms of how they're used.
Interesting. Wow.
It's not really, but you took us down this path, Tim.
So I wonder. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how we get to recap from there. Maybe we'll never know. I don't know.
Tim, I'm pretty sure there's like a whole like lineage of the English language, and it goes back to either Latin or maybe Greek or something like. Like there's people who are like have degrees in this subject who know where words come from. So I suspect it is known. I don't think it's a mystery. I think this is just a case of like, you don't know how subatomic particles work, but you trust that there's other people who do, and they get the job done. Okay, same thing here.
Sure, yeah, that's fair, I guess.
I mean, this movie's pretty dull, to be honest. So I mean, I'm not necessarily mad at the weird
that's a
tangent.
bold take.
Well,
okay.
It's got some crazy individual moments. Brian Yuzna loves to do body horror and people eating disgusting things, and that's in here. But there's a lot of dull in between. The characters are not that engaging. So yeah, Silent Deadly Night 4 is pretty bad. That's my thoughts. I'll usually go first, but you've tricked me into it, Tim. How do you feel about Silent Deadly Night 4?
Well, I think I'm going to be slightly more positive than you. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a good movie. It is pretty bad, but I do think it is kind of crazy and cheesy enough that I found it somewhat enjoyable, interesting to watch. Of course, the big thing that we'll probably discuss a lot is the fact that it's deviating from kind of what you think of the franchise, and just in general, it doesn't really feel very Christmassy, other than, there's like, set dressing, technically takes place at Christmas time, but it's in Los Angeles. So, it's not the usual Christmas, snowiness that you're used to. But I mean, in general, like, I'm missing the psycho Santa killer. Like, it just doesn't feel like Christmas if there's not someone in a Santa suit with an axe, like, chasing people down.
I mean, I agree. This is an important part of Christmas. I
mean, worms are cool too. Like, don't get me wrong, but they're not very Christmassy to me.
Well, I don't think they were worms, but yeah, I get your point though.
They're bugs, whatever.
They were more like parasites in this movie, but no, I think that it was okay for the first like half hour, maybe like even just less than that, and there was enough Christmassy. There's like a Christmas, like, not even dinner, just like a greeting at a house that happens. There's enough kind of crazy things setting up the story. But honestly, once it actually got into the whole like coven of witches stuff, once it started going down that path, I thought it got really dull, and no amount. Like, I actually thought it was impressive, despite some of the crazy practical effects, which they were doing. They were doing some crazy practicals to try and do some weird body horror stuff. When they started doing that stuff, I actually am impressed just how boring it is. Like, I did not feel anything from any of this.
I disagree. I think I enjoyed that stuff. Again, not in like a, oh, this is a great movie kind of way, but in a like, well, I can't believe this is the fourth Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. It's pretty out there.
I mean, I was thinking that a few times. Don't get me wrong. Honestly, I don't think Brian Yuzna's that good. Like, he seems to be attached to a lot of things that are sequels to other things for the most part. Obviously, Society is the one movie that people kind of bring up, and I don't love that the way some other people do. I like his disgusting body horror stuff. Kind of feels like it's like Cronenberg but without the class. It's kind of weird to me.
I get that.
So I don't know. I'm not really into his stuff by and large. I mean, Return of the Living Dead 3 at least has Melinda Clarke walking about topless for like half the movie, so I remember at least enjoying that part of it.
Ha-cha-cha.
But Bride of the Reanimator, I don't like that much. You know, it's okay, but it's nothing compared to the original.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's all the ones of his that I've seen. This is the funnily enough, this is the fourth Brian Yuzna directed film I think I've watched. I'll check, but yeah.
I've only seen Society the one time, but I actually did like it quite a bit. And then, yeah, I'd say Bride of Reanimator is it's like fun enough, but yeah, definitely not much compared to the sequel.
Honestly, being a co-writer on the original script for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is probably his best work.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. He did do a movie called The Dentist, which sounds fun.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
It's a horror movie.
That'll probably be a bonus movie at some point.
I can imagine it. When we did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on the Ace, we talked a lot about how you could easily see how Harold Ramis could be Jeffrey Combs instead. Like, just if it wasn't a kids movie and you just made it slightly more of a horror movie, how that could be Jeffrey Combs, and you could see how it came from the same people who made Reanimator.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I think one of the bigger issues here is that the main character in this movie is pretty uninteresting. She's not the worst actor all the time, but I feel like anytime she's supposed to get more angry or scared, like, her acting like gets worse, and she starts yelling and she starts like exclaiming things a bit more, and I thought that was really kind of pulling me out of things. The movie also tries to, like, I guess technically tackle some serious themes of misogyny and things like that, but let's just say it's not got the caliber of writing to back it up and actually really say or do anything with it. No?
No, I mean, I kind of disagree. I actually like the main character. I didn't think she was bad. And I don't know. I thought it was like, again, it's done in kind of a cheesy way. So I'm not looking this like to tackle serious social issues, but like, to me, it was kind of funny, like how over the top it was, like, you know, because it had like that very, you know, like kind of feeling of you know, it's very early 90s, but it's like a kind of a 90s feeling of like, you know, oh, like, you know, she's a go-get-em woman stuck in this man's world, and like she's gonna show the boys like she can really crack it. And like, I don't know, I thought it was kind of endearing, maybe especially when you know, your boss is the dude from Phantasm. Yeah, that's gotta you feel like you have to kind of step up and prove yourself to him.
I mean, okay. I'm glad you get something out of it. I was.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying I'm 360 degrees away from you or whatever, if that's a saying. But
I mean, it's definitely not, because 360 degrees would be back to where I am, Tim. That's a full circle.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm that close to you, but I'm also not that far either.
I think what you were trying to say is you're not 180 degrees away from me.
That makes sense too. But I mean,
no. There's no two. There's no two in that sense. How dare you?
We'll find the correct circumference to where I'm at.
Okay, first of all, I was already correct. Secondly, that's not a circumference. A circumference is not told in degrees, Tim. Oh my god, this is just.
But listen, all I'm trying to say is, first of all, We love math here on the show. And second of all, yeah, I'm not like totally disagreeing with you saying like, oh my god, you're an idiot, even though, well, you know, but I'm not saying that.
What do you mean, even though you know? What do you? Continue. I don't want to hear.
I'm not saying you're completely off or anything. Like I obviously enjoyed it a little bit more, but yeah, it's not a good movie by any stretch.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'll also say that there's a lot of people eating things in this movie that are disgusting, and it was off-putting. Do not watch your dinner whilst eating Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. Just an FYI. I think we'll get to spoilers there. We'll work through the movie. I will say you probably don't care, admittedly, and you're not going to really. It's not you having a classic ruined for you if you hear what we have to say about Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. But you've been warned, so there you go.
You've been naughty.
Yeah. Hit the like button, or Santa's going to come and beat the shit out of you with a baseball bat in the middle of the night.
If you're listening to spoilers before watching the movie, that's very naughty. Santa doesn't like that.
Again, why does your Santa sound like a pervert? Like every time you're saying something about him.
I mean, have you ever heard any Christmas songs? Like, Santa's always so horny in them. It's always like, ooh, Mama's kissing Santa Claus, or Santa's making babies.
I mean, to be fair, I saw the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. There was definitely some horny Santa happening in there.
That's a big, that's a big tradition in Christmas horror movies. There always has to be some like messed up scene with Santa doing something.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't down on the opening scene. The opening scene where a woman is screaming at the edge of a building, and then it cuts away to Clint Howard eating a dirty burger off the ground. It cuts back to the
burger,
and it cuts back to. Well, how else would you describe it?
That's a good way to describe it. I like it.
It's a dirty. It's been on the ground. It's got bugs crawling in it. It's a dirty burger.
I wish I could quote some of Mr. Howard's lines, but he uses the F word too many times. It's
he does. Yeah, he's quite.
It's a family-friendly show. I can't repeat a lot of what he says.
Yeah, so it cuts back up to this woman. She's suddenly on fire. Right, there was like no transition to like her not being on fire and then her being on fire. She's just on fire, and then she comes plummeting off the building.
Did you ever play NBA Jam?
I don't think I have, Tim. No.
Okay, there was like a thing where I think it's like if you get like, was it like 3 points in a row or something, like the announcer goes like, he's on fire, and then the ball actually catches on fire. It's pretty cool.
Are you suggesting she was playing basketball up in the roof?
She might have been. I don't know. It's possible.
I do appreciate that it looked like her legs had been completely burned away. Like by the time she landed, there was just like sort of like black ash or marks like where the legs would be, which actually later on when our main character Kim comes and like investigates the crime scene, she sees like the outline, right? I thought it was a bit weird that the outline like faded away where the burns for the legs were, and I'm like, why would, like, they drew this on after she landed and cooled down, why would the lines be affected by it? Doesn't make any sense.
It was just that hot.
Apparently. So that's your opening. Some random woman jumped off a building on fire, and Clint Howard is around eating a dirty burger.
Remember like how in the 90s we were all obsessed with spontaneous human combustion? Like whatever happened to that? I never hear anyone talk about it anymore.
I mean, I want to say I wasn't obsessed with it, because I wasn't, but I do vaguely remember it being like a subject of the odd paranormal like TV show.
Yeah.
I do recall such a thing.
One of my friends unfortunately combusted too, so it was a sad year for me.
It wasn't spontaneous though. It was like a slow cooking over the course of the year.
Yeah. It would just be like, hey man, you're on fire. He'd be like, I know, and I love NBA Jam, but like, no, you're seriously on fire.
He's just sitting in a big frying pan, just slowly cooking over the course of the year. Oh dear. So we get introduced to our main character, and you can tell Stars was involved in this because there's just like a gratuitous sex scene at the start for no reason. With her and Hank, her boyfriend, who both work together, and
he's just like carrying her, like
yeah, mid-sex. So they're both naked, and she's like wrapped around him, and he's like sort of awkwardly trying to like walk over to the bed.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the news on TV is talking about this woman who set herself on fire and jumped off a building.
I did think it was kind of funny that like mid-sex she's like looking at the TV like, hey, let's hear about this dead lady.
Yeah, the sex must be so good if she's like so invested in it that she's watching the news. But yeah, we get interested in the fact that they both work at this sort of trashy magazine / newspaper or whatever it is, and she wants to take this case, but she's not actually a reporter. She does the calendar. And she does the confidentials or whatever, and she wants him to talk to the boss and be like, "Hey, like he'll listen to you. Talk to Reggie from Phantasm, and tell him that I should be put on this case as a reporter." And he's like, "Oh, that's a bit awkward." And I almost can see what he's saying. It's a bit weird if he goes to his boss and says, "Hey, since I'm sleeping with her, can you give her like this, this promotion?" Because I've asked you to. Like, I get, but he never actually argues that though. He just kind of awkwardly doesn't say anything. And then like there's these two other guys that work there whose entire running gag is that whenever she's around, they just slut shame her because she's sleeping with another guy at the office. It's really really weird.
Yeah, like, they're not nice people.
No, like he just says things like, I think later on she walks in, she's like, "Oh, if it isn't the Virgin Mary," and things like that. They're just relentlessly sexist. It's unbelievable. Like she's got a boyfriend. Like that's it. She just has a boyfriend. Yeah. But yes, they're making slut jokes constantly.
But I think it seems like though that they are like a legitimate couple. Like it's not like he's a player that is just sleeping around with a bunch of different women. It's like, no, it seems like they're actually in a relationship and stuff. Although he does seem to be embarrassed to acknowledge the relationship at work, because he kind of like pulls away from her when the other guys are around, as if to be like, no, we have to keep the secret here. You're my secret bit in the side here. You're not you're not like my wife. Well, right? I mean, she does classifieds. It's a little beneath a man of Hank's stature.
And then I've never heard of this. Of someone convincing their partner to let them meet their like parents. Like it's usually someone saying, "Hey, it's time for you to meet my parents," and the other person being like, that's a bit. I'm a bit nervous. It's a bit awkward, but sure. No, she's like, "Hey, so can I come meet your parents tonight?" He's like, I mean, is that a good idea? He's like, "Come on," and he's like, "Okay, fine, you can come meet my parents tonight." Like, okay.
Now, do you think part of the reason why he was a little hesitant is because his father is a huge anti-Semite?
And also very sexist. Let's not forget the sexism.
Oh yeah, too. Of course.
Yeah. He's
furious that she is Jewish and also a lady. Like,
yeah, he's making these little comments like immediately, but when she says she's Jewish, he just goes, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" He says it out loud where she can hear him, and then the wife comes in with a drink. And you'd think that he would just not say anything else about it, but he starts like getting on about it and like saying stuff. And then he's because she's talking about what she does for work. He's like, "Oh yeah, I do the calendar and stuff at the paper," and he just leans in and goes, "I think a woman's place is at home," and stares right at her. And I'm like, "What? This guy is a complete prick."
I mean, like obviously, if you take it very seriously, it's horrifying, but like to me this is kind of like the cheesy campy stuff that's so over the top that I found it funny. Like, yeah, he is such a raging piece of shit, but also it's like, yeah, like who would be such an asshole to that degree? That was funny.
I feel like most people who feel that way will at least show some semblance of holding back until the person leaves, and then they'll rant like absolute bigots.
Or like, if he's a little passive aggressive, like that might be more believable, but no, he is just like full on aggressive. Also, you kind of think that your son's bringing home a girlfriend. Chances are he probably likes her, so that he probably wants to, like you would at least want to be nice to the person that your son likes.
Yeah, but actually before she even says she's Jewish, Or no, that's after, because the little brother. So Hank's got a little brother who's like I don't know 10 or something like that, 12 maybe. And he asks like if she has a Christmas tree, and when she's explaining, oh no, but there's I like this time of year though, because lots of different like religions and cultures celebrate this time of year for different reasons. Hank's dad just cuts in with, that's bullshit. Like he's basically that character from like those religious like Christian Christmas movies where like anyone who does not celebrate Christmas as Christmas is the enemy and must be defeated at all costs.
Unless it was a Kirk Cameron movie, in which case he would be the hero. So now wait, well, kind of. So you're probably thinking at this point, like, okay, it's Christmas time, but okay, she's Jewish. She doesn't celebrate Christmas, like Silent Night, Deadly Night. Traditional Christmas horror. Like, all right, maybe this is gonna have something to do with the movie and come into play, but no, absolutely not.
It never comes up. In fact, after this scene, it basically forgets to even bother mention that it's Christmas. The only time you see anything Christmassy later on is that there's a very quick scene at the office Christmas party in the sort of back third. But after this scene, like, you barely see anything Christmassy again for the rest of the movie. Well, actually, barring one brief snippet of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3 playing on a TV in one scene. And Santa's in that scene, so technically I suppose that's another Christmassy thing. So, chuck it up. Otherwise, we're doing amateur reporter tries to investigate suicide, but it's actually to do with a witch's coven, so she starts seeing weird shit. And, I think in this scene, like, she gets offered something to eat and she eats it, but then when she's investigating the crime scene, she goes out of this bookstore that's owned by this other main character named, what was it?
Fema or something?
Fema, yeah. Who, by the way, is the head witch. I'll say that now for context. And Clint Howard's in there, and Clint Howard pokes her on the bum.
He's marking her.
He just walks up and pokes her on the bum, which she rightly gets upset about. And the female lady like sends him upstairs. Turns out he's a homeless person who lives on the roof of this building, so he goes back up there. But this is all just kind of set up. She's wanting a book about combustion and stuff like that. She goes up to the roof. She does some looking around, but then Clint Howard pulls out this big parasite from this like pipe and holds it up against her face. It's all very weird, and she runs off, and that's her experience on day one as a reporter.
Hey, she must be doing something right.
Which, by the way, she wasn't given this assignment yet. She chose to go rogue and investigate this on her own because she wants to prove herself.
Badass.
Sure, okay. And this is where
we love a character that goes rogue.
This is where it gets disgusting.
Including Rogue from the X-Men.
This is where it gets disgusting though, because like there's a guy who works in like the butcher shop downstairs who like is eating nuts that are covered in blood. He doesn't care that his hands are covered in blood. And then when she goes home, when she's in the bookshop, she feeds her like what is it she feeds her?
I think it's a date.
Yeah, it's like a big date. And that's disgusting the way they emphasize her chewing sounds and stuff. And then when she goes home, like cockroaches and stuff start crawling out all of her food.
Yeah, I mean, and before you're just going back to her eating in the bookstore. The gross part to me is that she like spits out the pit in her palm, and then the bookkeeper or the FEMA or whatever, she like takes a tissue and like picks it up for her and then like holds it, which is just very weird. Like usually most people would just be like, oh, like here's a trash can, you can throw it in or whatever. Like I don't know, it seemed very strange.
Yeah. So I think some of this actually took place before the Christmas meet up with the parents, because I remember thinking it was weird that because she makes herself spaghetti, and they do like a little thing here where she looks at this book about occult stuff, and the spaghetti's in the same shape as the symbol that's in the book. And I was all right, come on now, movie. Come on, we're being silly now. We're being silly. But then like cockroaches.
Silly Night, Deadly Night?
It is. I think it is, Tim. That's what it should have been called. But cockroaches start crawling out of her food, and she sort of throws it to the side, and she gets all freaked out. And then the phone rings, and it's her boyfriend saying, "Hey, you coming to meet my parents or not?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes." And I was like, "Wait, why were you making dinner? If you were planning on going to this thing with your boyfriend, did she forget?"
Yeah, sometimes you need a snack.
A full plate of spaghetti and like a side, a snack.
For me, it would be.
Oh dear. God. Honestly, at this point in the events of the movie start to, there's a big cockroach on her wall at one point that she doesn't see. It's just kind of hanging out there. I don't know if that's here or like later on, but it's around.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the, investigating, starting to get paranoid, kind of like, I think even early on you kind of figure, like, a lot of these people are probably in on it. Like it wasn't like super shocking.
Yeah,
to find out.
The bookshop lady like gives her some odd looks. There's an old woman walking around there as well that's giving her some odd looks. It's like, okay, this is just a coven of witches, and that was obviously a sacrifice at the start of the movie for something, whatever it might have been. Yeah.
So then the probably the next big kind of set piece or whatever would be when she goes to
the picnic.
Yeah, well, I forget what happens at the picnic. Not really much happens there, right? It's more when she goes to her actual house, right?
Yeah, the picnic though has a weird moment at the end where Fema kisses her on the lips, and
right.
Like, and it's almost like she was in a trance or whatever because she doesn't seem to remember it later. Like Kim never brings it up. The next time she sees Fema, she doesn't act awkward or weird because there was that, whether it was good or bad for her perspective, she might actually have been into it. Who knows? But she never acts like, oh, we shared an intimate moment and we don't know how to move forward from here or anything like that. Yeah. She's just like, it's like it never happened. Because that's when she's back up on the roof again, which, I need to talk about the editing here. So she's investigating the thing still with, because at the picnic, Hank shows up and says, hey, you need to come back to it, because she's ditching work at this moment to go to this picnic. Hank takes her back to the office, and she's told by Reggie that Hank's put in a good word for her and that she should be put in the case as long as it doesn't detract from her regular work. And Hank gives her a little like wink like, hey, I did it for you, baby, and I'm the best boyfriend. And she's like, oh yeah, that's great. And she's kind of out of it now because she feels weird, like the picnic thing's like put a bit of a hex on her or something. And she's like, how did you know where I was? And he's like, oh, I asked your friend. And she's like, okay. And she walks over to the friend. She's like, did you tell Hank where I was today? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, but how did you know? You must have told me. Huh, okay. Spoiler alert, the friend's one of the witches.
My God.
So, anyway, what I'm getting to is that she's investigating this with Hank. She goes back to the crime scene. They look about, they go up to the roof, and they're talking about, falling off the roof, blah, 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 blah. Before he goes back to work and she wants to stay here and look into things more, they share a kiss, and they're standing there sort of being kissy and talking very, close to each other for a good minute of screen time. And the editing and camera work here is so bad, it crosses the line multiple times to the point where when he walks away from her to leave the scene, it feels like he teleports because they flip around and he's already half a step away. So when it cuts to that shot, it feels like he's switched from the one side to the other, and it's really badly edited. It's breaking so many rules of basic filmmaking principles. So, and I know Brian Yuzna, well, I don't necessarily like a lot of his movies. He's not a complete amateur, so I'm not really sure why it's this poorly done. Maybe a second unit director had to shoot that scene that day or something. I don't know, but it's really rough.
I kind of gathered that this wasn't his pride and joy of the movies he's done.
I mean, I think that's fair. I won't deny that.
Not that I'm sure there's stuff that he likes in it or whatever, and it's not like he disowned it or whatever, but I feel like when people talk about the Yuzna canon, this is the first one that usually pops up.
You can tell it's his though with the weird body stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Definitely feels like one of his. So she goes down to talk to Fema, who lives above her bookshop, and Fema drugs her with some fancy tea, and then starts to all the other witches show up and they hold her down, and Clint Howard comes in with one of these big parasite things and feeds it to her, or puts it in her belly button, I think, actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And they feed her some other weird stuff as well, and then she vomits up a giant cockroach, I think it is. And then Clint Howard picks that up, they split it in half, and then start pouring the innards of the cockroach into her mouth. Tim, can you make sense of any of this?
Hey, it's a trip, man. I mean, I don't know what cults do.
And for the record, she's not really struggling that much here because she's kind of in like a sort of half trance kind of daze. It's like she's looking up and she's like, but she's not really fighting or has the whereabout to actually say anything or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I did find this stuff a little icky to watch. Like the rest of the movie, I up until this point I thought was, like even the stuff that might be trying to be more serious or whatever, it's still kind of like cheesy and campy to me. Like this, I don't know, just feels kind of gross. Like, I mean, obviously, the implications are like, it's basically like, she's being drugged and then, forced to do stuff against her will and have stuff thrust upon her. So it's not really a fun time, especially in like, a cheesy Christmas horror movie.
Yeah. Don't worry though, later on the rape gets literal. So you get both sides of it.
Oh, thank goodness.
I'm being facetious, of course, for anyone not picking up on that in my tone.
Right.
Basically, she wakes up after she falls asleep, and she gets up and feels a bit weird, but she tries to leave, and all the witches are like, no, you must stay, honey, you must stay, you must finish. And she goes to Hank's place, and they send Clint Howard after her, right? And honestly, she's so out of it when she goes to Hank's place. She sort of flip-flops from, like, wanting to have sex with him to wanting to, like, make herself vomit, and then she wants to have sex with him again. And Hank's just like, wait, what was that? Confused, he doesn't know what she's acting like. But then she kind of pins him down and starts, and actually, her dialogue here is really weird because she starts whispering in his ear, I want to have sex with you when you go to sleep. I want you to get hard when you're asleep. I don't want you to wake up, so stay still. Stay perfectly still. So that's what's happening. And then Clint Howard, who's followed her here, just walks into the apartment and sits down on the bed, at the edge of the bed, and turns on the TV. And it's like, after like 20 seconds of him watching Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3, Hank eventually like notices, and all of his like orgasming and pleasure, he's like, wait a minute. Clint Howard's on my bed. Who's this asshole?
Yeah. Nothing will give you blue balls faster than just looking over and seeing Clint Howard. Sorry, Clint, we love you, but I mean that would be disturbing.
Oh, it would be very disturbing. I mean, almost anyone just miraculously appearing at the edge of your bed without you noticing is going to be disturbing. Let's be honest. Unless you already know them personally, maybe. But like, hell,
Santa.
It would probably be even weirder for us because we know who Clint Howard is as an actor. Like, if Clint Howard just appeared at the edge of your bed.
Ice cream man.
Oh no, it's the kid from Star Trek. Oh dear.
Let's not forget he was in Leprechaun 2.
I try to forget Tim every day.
My goal is to one day have my copy of Leprechaun 2 signed by the entire cast.
I'm trying to think if I've heard anything sadder in my life than what you just said. Nope, can't do it. I tried.
Unfortunately, I have 0 signatures so far, but my goal is to one day have them all.
At least one of the cast members is dead already, so you're out of luck with him, but...
Hey!
What?
What? It's not nice.
It's not nice, I'm just stating a fact.
Calling someone dead is very mean.
No, it's not, it's factual. Someone's either alive or dead, and if they're dead, they're dead.
Well, I agree to disagree.
So Clint Howard and Hank have a fight, and Hank stabs him. We get this moment where it almost feels like when they snap out of it and it turns into a fight. It's almost like Kim actually becomes her real self again because she's scared. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, she was acting kind of possessed before, but now she's acting kind of normal. And I think the implication is that everything they did to her was supposed to make her like horny, because the whole like ritual's building up to like Clint Howard, planting a seed in her. Sure. So that's why she's so horny. But now that she snapped out of it, she's like scared again. But she's hiding under the bed and she watches like the blood fall onto Hank's feet as he's being stabbed. So, and also, I think I do kind of enjoy the humor of part of this though, which is that when she comes out after and Clint Howard's just brutally stabbed her boyfriend, he's very calm when he says, "Oh, come on, Kim, let's just go. We have to go back now. Come on." Like he's not actually trying to be threatening. He's more just kind of the annoyed errand boy who's like, "Come on, let's just go back. Like all this will stop if you go back to her." And sure enough, like more weird stuff starts happening where like her shins start to like spark, like she's got robot legs, and there's like weird stuff in her hair. She's seeing more bugs. And it's like, this will all stop if you go back and finish what you know, Fema, that's her name, what Fema wants, if you go back and finish the ritual. So she eventually just decides, okay, fine. Actually, no, is this later when they want her to get the boy?
Well, I was going to say, like, at what point is it like, okay, actually, you need a boy? Like...
That well, that's definitely after this, because the whole weird Clint Howard in his weird dildo mask,
right,
but otherwise naked. So yeah, they have like the rest of the ritual where they get her back to like a secret room in their building, and they hold her down, and they strip her, and Clint Howard comes in wearing this it's like a ball gown mask, but there's a big long nose on it. I actually thought for a second it was just a dildo, and then I looked closer and went, oh no, it's actually just like a cylinder, but it was like, okay, it was clearly phallic, and
yeah,
you just get some quick glimpses of him on top of her, and this is obviously part of the ritual, and I'm like, this is the most traumatizing thing I may have ever seen.
Yeah, again, like when you come into the Silent Night Deadly Night franchise, you expect it to be a little more I don't know, fun and cheesy and goofy. I mean, I guess the other ones were kind of taking themselves seriously too, but
there was some sleaze though. Like, there was definitely I mean, Santa did like rip open the top at the start of the first movie, and was getting a bit pervy. So it's not like it's not had stuff like that, but that just felt more.
Maybe it's because like the main character or whatever, just I don't know, feels grosser.
It's also because we're building up to it, and like Clint Howard's been kind of pervy looking at her the whole movie. It's like we have a lot more context for this, and it just feels a bit skeevier. But then like her fingers start to like bend in weird directions, and then they sort of fuse together. Her legs fuse together, and I thought she was becoming a mermaid for some reason. But instead,
I can't really explain exactly what's going on, but I do think it looked really cool. I thought the special effects were cool here.
Yeah, I don't know either. Her eventually like the fused together part of her kind of breaks off like a shell, and she's normal underneath. So she gets up, and like the cook who was earlier on eating the peanuts, he's like there because this is like the back of his place, so he's clearly working with the witches for whatever reason. And she gets up and she goes home. She tries to tell the police that her boyfriend's dead, but the policeman who comes and checks her place, all the evidence of a fight's been wiped. There's no blood, there's nothing broken, so they don't believe her. He just belittles her and says, I can recommend a therapist, and she gets upset about that. She goes to the Christmas party at work, and Reggie's like, no, Hank's just out of town, what are you talking about? And they all just, and Hank's like, hey, you got his job though, that's what you wanted, kind of thing.
So is the implication here is that like they're all in on it, or
no? I don't think so. I think the implication is the witches have done a spell, and everyone's like sort of had a lie fed to them or something. Actually, I remember, like, so the way they got her back for the rest of the ritual, the whole thing where she decides to help because she wants all the weird stuff to stop happening, that's later. The way she gets back to the ritual the first time when Clint Howard's trying to get her to go back is because this is when it reveals that the friend, she shows up and she turns out to be one of the coven.
Right. Yes.
So she helps get her back. Because you think Clint's going to have to stab her because he's like, oh no, and he's holding the blade, and then she comes in and takes the blade from him and sort of chastises him for being a screw up. It's like, oh no, you're working with the witches. You're one of them. So, but yeah. Anyway, so there was like a brief mention from Fema that she lost a daughter, and it's not surprising later on when she says that the woman who went off the roof on fire was her daughter. And it seems like what she's trying to do in the movie is to basically have Kim be a vessel for her daughter to be reborn in her. It's like, when this process is all complete, her daughter will be in her. Although the ending kind of murkied that up, and I kind of felt like maybe what she was saying is that she wanted her daughter to be like, this is actually a little bit hereditary, she wanted her daughter to be like the carrier of like evil or something, and then her daughter, wasn't strong enough to like go through with the murder of someone, so that's why she ended up, burning on fire and going off the roof. And she's hoping Kim will be that, and they've done everything, but Kim has to do one more thing for the process to be complete, is to kill a man. But it's actually when she says to them, "Oh, but Hank's dead," Fema just leans in and goes, "He's just a man." you're not a part of that world anymore. It's so weird to me because the whole movie is like, look at all these awful men, they're all misogynistic, like she can't get anything done or do what she wants as a career because everyone's like beating her down. Hank's dad's super sexist, everyone at work is super sexist, and then like I suppose in a weird way what they're trying to do is like justify why all these women turn to being witches, because this world sucks for women, and they're so far in the other direction where they just want to really murder men, on a whim, and they specifically want her to kill Hank's little brother, right? That's this like 11, 12-year-old who's innocent. So she doesn't want to do it. That's when all the weird stuff's happening, and Clint Howard's like, hey, all this weird stuff that's happening to you will stop if you just do what they say and, like, finish everything. So the last chunk of the movie is her going to the family's house with Clint Howard. Clint wants to go in with her, but he's told to stay back. And she goes and kidnaps the kid by tricking him by saying that his big brother is in their van. So he falls for the oldest trick in the book, the little shit. And from here, like, they try to get her to stab the kid. They've got him like down on the ground on the roof, and they've got like his shirt open for her to stab him.
And then don't forget too that Clint Howard ends up killing the parents as well.
Oh, of course, yes. How could I forget? He basically,
which I wasn't really sure why, because they already had the kid.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess maybe if you don't want him calling the cops or something, but
yeah, it was basically for no reason. He just runs in and quickly kills the wife, and then chases the husband round a bit. And
it's probably the most like Silent Night, Deadly Night kill though, because he's like choking him with Christmas lights. So it's like,
that's true.
Right, this is a little bit Christmassy.
That's all you get, I guess. That's what you're getting. And we're basically at the last scene, because the movie ends very abruptly when it's done. Basically, the main character, Kim, she's holding a knife, and they're saying you have to stab him, you have to kill him, and instead she stabs Fema. She resists the urge, and Fema's like, oh, you're going to burn up just like my daughter did. And then she is able to revert the knife back and stabs Fema, so Fema burns up and dies in a crisp. And the rest of the witches just kind of are like, oh, that's disappointing, and they just kind of walk off. They don't. It's not like they keep trying to kill her or anything like that. They're just like, oh well, I guess that's that. We'll just leave now.
Like, oh well, there's no ritual. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Although Clint Howard does die in the process, because Clint Howard, despite being a creepy pervert villain who's murdered people the whole movie, tries to defend Kim. I guess he's got a crush on her.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. It was kind of weird.
When Fema goes to kill her, he jumps in and says, no, don't hurt her. And then Fema kills him. So he's gone.
And he gets like devoured by giant whatever leeches or
there's a shot looking down at him, and he's covered in these big parasite looking things. And then that's basically it. Like, they're looking down at the charred body of Fema after she's burned alive, and the credits just start rolling. Which actually, that reminds me, the opening titles of this, like, it's like it thought it was like a Hitchcock movie from the 60s, because it's all these spirals and stuff, and it's like, what is this? This isn't very Christmas themed.
And it's weird because I think it like at first it comes up as like Initiation, so like you're kind of like, oh wait a minute, I'm watching a Silent Night Deadly Night movie, right? And then after that it's like Silent Night Deadly Night 4, and you're like, oh okay. And I mean, this is clearly like not a Silent Night Deadly Night script. Like, this had to have been, a totally separate movie that they just slapped the name on.
Yeah, the company clearly got the rights to the name, and they just slapped it on a couple of TV movies that they wanted to make, for cheap. And this is, or 3, I think 3 was Stars as well, so, like, yeah, it feels like they're just random different scripts that they've just slapped the title on. Maybe the scripts weren't even set at Christmas, they just said, oh, just put in a few references to Christmas and call it a day. And here we are. And yeah, it's unfulfilling. It's unfulfilling as a Silent Night Deadly Night movie. It got some practical effects, like it's got more than I'd expect from a TV movie, so I'll give it that much at least.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I think that it was so kind of weird and unexpected that it kept me interested throughout. Like I can't say that I was necessarily. You said it was kind of dull, but honestly, I didn't really think I was that bored by the watch. Yeah, I could have used more Christmas for sure, but I don't know. Like it wasn't the worst thing in the world to me.
I think the whole like these women are secretly all witches and they're actually doing little things to like do something to her as part of a long spell or a long ceremony of some kind. I guess I think you have to have a lot of style and atmosphere to pull that off where I give a shit about it, because as it is in this movie, I was just so bored by that premise. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're slowly like prepping her for your, you know, it's like she's dinner being prepped for the grill, you know, like the whole movie. You're just sort of waiting for her. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I've seen worse, right? Absolutely. This is not the most bottom of the barrel you can get, but it's under the, you know, it's under the good threshold, I would say, quite comfortably.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I think I preferred 3. And 3 wasn't great, but I think the weirdness of 3 appealed to me a little bit more than this one did.
I mean, at the very least, 3 was still trying to be, you know, part of the franchise. Like, they added a lot more weird elements, but it was still, you know, the part of Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is just, yeah, it's a weird offshoot.
It's a witch movie with a couple of Christmas trees in the background.
Yeah. Yes. You probably say it's like the much less successful version of like Halloween 3. Like, yeah.
Yes, much. And Halloween 3 was not even successful at the time.
Right.
Halloween 3 did not do well. But yeah, this is obviously much lower on the totem pole. Yeah, it's kind of a sad state of affairs, all things considered. I guess it's time we rate it. I don't really have much to add. Is there any particular like, practical effects you want to give a shout out to, since that's probably the highlight of the movie for most people?
I mean, you mentioned it before, but I do like when her fingers like get all long and entangled. Like, I don't know, there's something about it that just, again, it seemed really weird, but the way they were moving just seemed like, I don't know, very freaky, and there's something that looked it's also like very unusual. Like, it's not an effect you see very often. So I don't know, I thought that was really cool. All the bug stuff, like, I don't know, like it again. I really have no idea like why it's in this movie or what the purpose of it is, but I think they look cool. Like, you know, that giant cockroach that was on the wall, like, hey, that looked like a cool giant cockroach. I wish maybe it had more relevance, so there was a reason it was doing what it was doing, but yeah, I thought that was cool. And the same thing whenever they pick up like a giant maggot or, you know, whatever it is. Like,
it almost feels like they were doing a witch thing and they're like, okay, what random gross props do we have from something else that we can just pretend is part of the ritual? Because yeah, there's never really any like direct symbolism that they go into as to why it's all these specific things that are popping up in her head. I think maybe what they were just trying to say is that because she's scared of them, she's seen the things she's scared of, as opposed to specifically those things. But I mean, I'm reaching for that to like give the movie an explanation. I don't know if that's really what they were intending necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't think we I mean, if anyone wants to get in the comments and defend with your Silent Night Deadly Night 4 lore and say this is why they did this, then by all means go ahead. But I cannot tell you, audience, how little of a shit I give. I don't care. I'm going to forget this movie pretty quickly after we're done talking about it, and be okay with that. So, on the upside, we just have part 5 left to go, so that's fun. We're not doing that this year though. We'll get to that probably next year. Although part of me's hoping there's more Christmas movies out that are worth doing, so we don't have to do it for a while. But we'll get to it in a future Christmas year. We've got other Christmas things picked out. But all right.
No excitement for the toy maker.
No. I'm assuming that's from part 5.
Yeah, Silent Night Deadly. I believe it's called Silent Night Deadly Night 5: The Toy Maker.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the title.
That sounds more connected to Christmas to me.
Yeah.
Kids get toys for Christmas. That sounds like a thing.
Elves make toys, as we all know. Elves up in the North Pole making PS5s as we speak.
Yes, unless they're those evil Nazi elves that try to kidnap a teenage girl to, give second coming to the Third Reich or something.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Okay. For anyone who's not getting,
I remember that. I remember the movie.
Yeah, but for the audience, if you think I'm making some sort of weird thing here, like we did a bonus episode for Christmas one year called Elves, and it has the most insane plot where the elves are actually Nazis or something like that. It's wild. Worth a watch for the craziness.
I just remember the line. I forget how it's teed up. Like, I think someone asks the granddaughter something, and she just has like this line where she's just like, "Grandpa's a Nazi."
Yes. There's a lot of very memorable lines in that movie, actually.
Yeah. That was a fun one. I just wish it was more available, because I think we kind of had a little bit of a hard time tracking it down. That seems like one that you should be getting like a Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome or something.
Yeah, hopefully it does at some point. Right now, you do kind of have to go into the deep dark pits of the internet to try and find it. Well, actually, I don't think that's true. I think it was on YouTube. But the point being, it's just a crappy old VHS rip. So, anywho, what are you rating Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, Tim?
Yeah, I think again there's definitely a lot of stuff you can criticize about it. Some pretty nonsensical story beats, very little to do with the franchise or Christmas in general, which I mean wouldn't be a bad thing if this was called like The Initiation. But since it is called Silent Night Deadly Night 4, you
also
have to...
there's another movie called The Initiation, which is decent from what I remember.
I think I saw that, and if I'm remembering correctly, I enjoyed it. I think
we did it on the show, Tim, so I'm positive.
Doesn't mean I watched it.
What?
JK, come on. But I don't know. I still think I like kind of enjoyed it in like a bad cheesy horror movie kind of way. Like there's some over the top characters. There's like a lot of like familiar faces, which is always fun to see, and again the practical effects I thought were really well done. Like that's definitely gonna bump it up a few notches for me. Obviously can't go too high for this type of movie, so I'll probably give it a maybe just like a smidge below the middle point, so I'll get like a 4.5 for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely a bit more negative. I appreciate that there is a lot of involved practical effects, so at least put some effort into something. But I don't enjoy the plot all that much. Though the absurdity of seeing Clint Howard in a weird dildo mask, but topless, is going to haunt me forever.
Hey, you got your Halloween outfit picked out for next year.
So I think for me it's more of a 3. It's not it's not the worst of the worst. Like, it could go lower, but I think it's pretty bad. So 3 out of 10 for me. So that's a 3.75 average for people who like to keep track of that kind of thing. But that is the show. So if all goes to plan, we should be doing for our second of 2 Christmas episodes. We should be doing It's a Wonderful Knife before the Christmas season is done. Also, our Patreon bonus this month is also going to be a Christmas-themed movie, so looking forward to that if you're on Patreon. Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you get a bonus episode every month, and at the $5 tier and up, you get another show called Even More Screams, which has been on hiatus since before Tim was on paternity leave, but it's coming back this month for Christmas. It's a show where me and Tim just talk about the different horror movies we've been watching, and maybe we'll have like a quiz or a topic or something at the top of the show. It's a bit more casual. It's very easy to jump in without having to watch anything. But yeah, so that's coming back later in December. So look forward to that. Otherwise, though, there's other bonus material on there for the other movie podcasts that we do in Mail Fuzz Movies. If you haven't checked them out, check out the Collector's Cut, which is a sort of general movie podcast where we work through franchises and subgenres of movies and filmographies and things like that. So it comes in like seasons of like doing like we just did like David Fincher season, for example, and did a bunch of David Fincher movies. or the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is a sci-fi movie podcast similar to this one but sci-fi. So go check out those if you would like. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Any final early December Christmas thoughts you'd like to give to the audience, Tim?
I would really just love to get my hand on one of those PlayStation portals. If anyone would be so kind to gift me one, send me a message and I'll send you my address, and
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you. I've been a nice boy this year. I deserve it.
Okay. Oh, if he's getting that, I want a 65-inch OLED TV. You undervalue yourself, Tim. You asked for something that's only $200. I'm going to ask for something that's $1,500.
All right. I always forget how our patrons are independently wealthy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to think though that one day a billionaire could just be like, I like these guys. It'd just be like, I will pledge 50,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean that's why we always are very complimentary towards the Musks and Zuckerbergs of the world.
No, we are not. How dare you? How dare you? That's the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been Screams After Midnight. We'll see you for another Christmas episode in about 2 weeks' time. Good night. Goodbye. Merry Christmas.